Hey y'all, welcome back. I'm Shayna Cersei. I'm so excited to paint with you today, and we're going to be doing another page in our watercolor journal. We are almost done with this journal. We have just 2 more pages left. Well, 1, 2, 3, 4, because I paint on every single side and surface of this journal. But we are going to be doing an abstract painting today. Where we're just going to be doing lines, and we're going to be working on 2 things. One, playing with water control and actually getting a little out of control to see what happens. And also, we are going to be looking at analogous color palettes. So you can see I have 2 sections here. I'm going to do similar exercises, but with 2 different color palettes of analogous colors. What is an analogous color, you may ask? So those are colors that are near or next to each other on the color wheel. So when you look at your color wheel, and you look around it and you find groupings of 3 or 4 colors all next to each other, those would be the analogous colors. So I'll walk you through that. I should have a color wheel here as an example, but I don't. It's tucked away somewhere. But we will get into that and I'll explain it as I go. So I'm going to start with a cooler color palette. So start on the side of the color palette with my blues, purples, greens, and work over there on those colors and group them together to create that analogous palette. And then I'm also going to do a warmer version of it with some reds, oranges, and yellows on this side of the page. So what we're going to do, let's pull out some colors. I have this green gold color here in my core color palette. So just to go over supplies real quick, Bao Hong sketchbook, velvet touch brush size 10, and my core QOR by Golden watercolor palette. In this color palette, I have this green gold color that I rarely ever use. So I will show you my palette itself. You can see all these colors I use regularly are like almost empty, where green gold is barely touched over here. I've rarely used this, but I've recently, very recently, have discovered a love for this color. It's not for everyone. It's got a neon quality to it, but it's this beautiful kind of color between green and yellow that I'm just adoring these days, and that's okay. I might fall out of love with it eventually, but right now we are in love. Okay, phthalo blue, another color. So on the color palette, these would be the furthest apart from each other, and green would be somewhere in between them. So let's pick another color that's a little more, or actually let's see what happens when I mix this blue with this yellow green color. We're gonna get, oh, this beautiful green. So we're gonna use this color palette here. So I took these 2 colors that are a little far apart, and then I mixed them together. This would be the 3rd color in between them. So this is an analogous color palette. All right, so what we're gonna do, I'm gonna be painting horizontal stripes, but I'm not going to try to control them and keep them perfect by any stretch. I want them to I want to keep the horizontal nature of them, but we're going to do wet on wet. We're going to drop in water. We're really going to play with our colors. I'm going to start with my lightest color, and you can do this a bunch of different ways. So I'm going to start just by painting across here. I'm going to rinse my brush. So I have a lot of water on my brush right now, and it's kind of going all over. Now, one of the things you can use for water control, and I'll put this up here for now, when I rinse my brush and I rinse it out and I pull it out, there's a lot of water still sitting in the belly of this brush. There's even drops of it kind of coming off the ferrule of the brush. Using a paper towel to dab your brush, and there's different levels of dabbing that will take out different amounts of water. So if you just want to take out a little because you need a lot of that content in there to really play, you're just going to dab it a little bit and then start to use it on the surface. If you really need a dry-ish brush, you're going to dab it quite a bit. And now you have a damp brush that still has some water or dampness to it, but no water is going to be spilling out of the brush onto the page. This type of dampness, when you've really blotted it off, is used to push around material that's already on the page. So you're not really adding more water or adding more paint, you're just kind of manipulating what's already there. All right, so while this is still wet, I'm going to start adding in some of the other colors. And then, so now I just have a wet brush and I'm blending them together. So drying off, dabbing to add some more yellow here. And you can even get this third analogous color by mixing right on the page. So you can see here, if I start to mix, I put the blue down and then the yellow down, and they start to mix here and create that green color. All right, so now that I've kind of covered the area, I'm going to start dropping in water. And we're going to see what that does. So I've dropped in water. So this simulates when you rinse your brush off and you don't dab it and you try to paint again, what happens is a bunch of water is rushing out onto the page. And look what it does. That water starts to push the paint around. So you have to be careful by pulling water off your brush in certain amounts so that it's not rushing out onto your page. Now, I did it forcibly here because I wanted to create these fun textures. And you can also do that with paint as well. So if I really load my brush up with water and paint and I drop in some paint, it'll kind of do the same thing. Create some of these funky different drying techniques. And what happens is there's different drying times now on the page. There's a big puddle here. This is almost dry over here. This is definitely almost dry down here. This is still damp here. And when you have different drying times, as things are drying and evaporating, the paint and the water are kind of contracting and pushing and pulling away from each other in different times and in different amounts. So it creates this push and pull of all the different colors that are already on your page. So if you want to avoid that, you have to do your best to have even spaced dampness or wetness throughout your page. And I'm just going to add on a few. Okay. So I'm going to let that dry. That looks super fun. The only thing I might do is pull out a little bit of color. I'm going to actually throw some water up here. I'm going to throw some water down here. So I just threw in extra water, and you might not see the results right away. It takes a while as it dries, but you will see them. So you can see here where I threw in water. Down here, up here, it's starting to like push things out and make like a circular pattern. Let's just add a little bit more this way. I want it to be a little longer. Okay, we're gonna let that dry. Look how fun that is. And we're gonna work on this one, a different analogous color palette, and then we're gonna add some pen or marker on top of it, and we'll do some doodles on top of these really cool backgrounds. Okay, so we did a blue, yellow, green analogous color palette. Let's do something on the red side, magenta side. So I think I want to keep yellow in, but we're going to do a warm yellow. So we'll do a warm yellow, and I'm going to do magenta instead of red, and a purple. So purple would be next to magenta on its way to blue, but not quite blue. And magenta would be on its way to yellow, this warm yellow, but not quite all the way yellow. No, I don't think this is right. I'm gonna take out the purple and we're gonna add another red. I'm gonna add an alizarin crimson. And I'm actually gonna add a cool yellow color. Hold please, and that's gonna help us create some oranges. So yellow and this alizarin crimson creates orange. So this is what we're going to use. I'm going to skip the magenta and do oranges, alizarin crimson, and yellows. All right, let's start with, so this is a cadmium yellow. I'm going to start with. And again, kind of keeping things horizontal. Adding lots of water. Now I'm going to start to add alizarin crimson. And actually, I'm going to pick up, I have an orange on here. That's just going to be a little more vibrant than the orange that would have been created with the alizarin crimson and yellow. Yes, and I think that's really going to turn this to fire. So same thing, I am being very purposeful in either adding too much water or having, and I don't have my brush here, dabbing off my brush and really just using my damp brush to kind of move around what's already there. So I have a lot of water on my brush now. I know it's going to create this funkiness going on up here. Let's pull out a little more alizarin crimson. And now I'm going to drop in some heavy water. So this is when experimentation can be super fun and you can push the boundaries of your materials and supplies and see like what happens when, so that way you're not surprised when it happens by accident. You actually know what you did. There we go. Like, look at this. Look how much this has pushed out and away. That looks really cool, actually. But this one is much softer because everything was more evenly damp. When I added water here, everything was still pretty wet. So it pushed it, but it's a softer blend versus here. Things were already starting to get pretty dry and I plopped in a big drop of water. So it really pushed things nice and hard. All right, let's let this all dry. I think I'm just going to put one stripey stripe through here. Yeah, okay. Let's let this all dry and then we'll come back and we'll do some doodling. All right, we are back and I have let these completely dry. I took my tape off, so now we have nice clean edges and these are so fun. So this is the kind of result you can get by just playing with colors, being intentional with your color palette. If you do pick lots and lots of different colors from all over the color wheel, you just have to be careful because they can start to get muddy really easily, but that's harder to do with analogous colors that are near each other on the color wheel. They naturally blend and go together. But once you start mixing complementary colors, go find my complementary color mixing videos. That's when things can get muddy. So I highly recommend playing around with your analogous colors. So let's play around with some pens. So I have these ink pens. These are, the brand is Stadler. I think that's how you pronounce it, but I'm not sure. If I'm wrong, you'll correct me, and that's fine. But these are metallic pens, and then I have an Artist Loft, an illustration pen, which is basically like a micron pen. It's an archival ink fine liner pen. So we're gonna play with these. I picked these colors, I tested them out. They work pretty well on top of watercolor. These particular ones, the set I had many more colors in it, so it had a whole bunch of different grays here, this pink and gold, but these kind of worked the best, I think, for what I'm going to try to do now. So what I'm going to try to do is I'm going to look at these very abstract kind of horizontally landscape type thingies. Well, I say landscape because I'm going to try to imagine them as landscapes and try to find some areas where naturally I might feel like some shapes or designs might grow out of them that might resemble trees or flowers or plants. So, and that can be fun with your imagination. So like right here in this area, it feels like a natural kind of ground line, and I am going to just go for it and have something tree-like kind of grow out of this area. I'm doing spirals. I don't know how I feel about this. So I'm using just the black pen here. This is actually not kind of where I thought I was going, but it's where we're going now. I was actually going to try to do something slightly more realistic, but this is very stylized, very whimsical. So we're just going to grow a little garden out of this right over here. All right, let's put the black away. Let's pull out some of these other colors, because you can do something like fun and whimsical like this, but then also just start to make patterns. So under this little hook here, I'm just going to start to make some fun little patterns. And then let's see here. So these can be great for journals because it can really just get your brain kind of moving and making decisions. I put little hats on these guys. I don't know why. All right, I'm gonna have some leaves, I think. Growing out of here. Actually, let's stick with this one. go back to our black, and I'm just going to do a little line here. Just going to draw some almost what looks like buildings or ruins in this little skyline. So you can get as crazy as you want, or as normal as you want. I think of like Salvador Dali paintings, or invoking like a little Alice in Wonderland kind of feel, where things are just fun and imaginative and surprising. And you can keep going and keep going. Let's see, what else do we want to put in here? I'm going to do some big kind of flower-like shapes. This blue pen, fill in that center. Let's do another one of these, like down here. Oop. And this could go on for a long time. This can be great. You can even do stuff like this, like while you're doing something else, like if you're trying to listen to a book or watch a show and you want your brain to be relaxed and actually focused on something else. That can be really fun for this type of thing, because you're more relaxed, you don't have to pay attention too much, and it allows your subconscious brain to kind of take over. And you might get things that are surprising to you that you wouldn't have been able to get otherwise. I don't know why I'm obsessed with these like weird little flower things. My little crumbling city up here. All right, I'm done on this side, and I'm going to start doodling on this side. If you try something like this, I would love to see your doodles, what you come up with, and how you explore this type of meditative painting and drawing. I'm going to do this one. You'll see the final product in the thumbnail of this video and at the end. So enjoy. Don't forget to check out the description, like and follow, or subscribe to this channel. Check out the description for supplies and materials that I use regularly, and I'll see you for another watercolor journal page idea. Take care, y'all.